Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be checking out a message from Joel, the creative director, on PvE and PvP for Dune Awakening. So let's crack on with it. But what I'm going to do, just like my previous video, I am actually going to read this through, see what he says, and I will put my 2 cents in where I feel necessary, but I really want to get into the nit and grit of some of the things that he has to say about PvP and PvE, because I feel like, especially in the PvP side, the direction they go is really going to determine if the player base will stay and retain or venture off somewhere else. Now we're going to jump right into this, but if you want a link to this article, it will be left in the description down below. So definitely go check that out if you don't want to hear me talk or read this to you. So here we go. Hello sleepers, I wanted to write something that acknowledges the addresses the comments around the endgame of Dune Awakening, while also providing context for what we were attempting. So let me start by stating this unequivocally. We want PvE players to be able to play the endgame and have access to the content of the endgame. Our goal is not to force PvE players to interact with a PvP system that they may not have no interest in. No endgame plan survives first contact with the players. Mark Twain, probably. We still believe in the core concept of the deep desert, an endless renewing location that resets every week and creates an activity loop for great rewards. The tension of heading out there, head on a swivel, eyes peeled for foes as you enter the most dangerous part of the most dangerous planet in the universe. Our wish was that players would embrace this loop, forming guilds to work together to overcome the bleakness of the deep desert. But as Stephen King says, wish in one hand and in the other hand, I can't say that, and I was trying to be in the other. So which one fills up first? One of my hands is overflowing right now, and sadly not with wishes. Did he actually say that? I like that he's a little unhinged. The reality is that players are reporting being cut out of the endgame due to extremely competitive nature of the deep desert. Starting soon, some areas of the deep desert will now be flagged as partial warfare PvE areas, where players will be able to explore testing stations and harvest T6 resources without the threat of conflict they may not want. It's important to note that the top tier of the game is balanced around guilds and groups, so people will still find it grindy if they play solo. Landsrad control points, shipwrecks, and the largest spice fields within this region of the deep desert will remain War of the Assassins PvP flagged. The deepest parts of the deep desert will remain as they currently are. High reward, high risk areas. The beauty of the deep desert design with the weekly resets and renewals is that we can iterate and experiment with different layouts and setups to really help us tune it. As we make changes, we will send out surveys to help us capture your thoughts. Now, I'm going to put my thought in right now, and I think that players having access to T6 resources is a good thing. I don't think that players should have access to blueprints or schematics, purple schematics, uniques. I think that part of the deep desert is fighting for those uniques, because it gives those uniques value on the marketplace, because you got to fight for them. And ground combat is a little bit different to aerial combat, where you could make some big plays, you could do some interesting things with small groups against larger groups, requiring you have the space to do it, and your builds are, you know what I mean. But I genuinely think that fighting for uniques and schematics should be a PvP thing, and getting T6 resources, okay, I don't see there being an issue with that, because I think part of the issue is that solo players don't have access to that, so they're being hunted down by players with tankier, faster, and higher damage dealing ships, because they can get that stuff, and you're in your rinky-dink little like T4, T5 ship, right? Just getting absolutely obliterated. Now, I'm not saying a T5 ship can't take on a T6. It can if you're really, really good and the guy sucks, but equal playing field, if you see what I'm saying. So that's my 2 cents on that. Let's continue reading. So we've got PvP itself has plenty of issues that need to be addressed. We're taking steps in that direction with our first changes to scout ornithopters. As Viljar stated in the AMA, these should be implemented in the game shortly. Scout ornithopters with rocket launchers attached will have their speed maneuverability reduced. Rockets fired from Scout ornithopters will have increased heat generation. Thrusters will provide a maximum speed bonus regardless of wings, ensuring that thruster-equipped Scouts will be the fastest vehicle in the game, and a new T5 infantry rocket launcher will be added to help improve their dynamics of vehicle and ground combat. There are additional changes to mechanics like respawn timers, vehicle storage tools, hand scanners, and other mechanics that we see being abused in the deep desert. The intended dynamic of the deep desert PvP in Dune Awakening is that unless you really mess up, you always have the option to retreat in good order with whatever you've managed to claim so far. If you're smart and vigilant, you never have to fight if you don't want to. If you run, you'll have to call a halt to whatever task you were pursuing, but that should always be a choice. PvP should happen when both parties decide they want to fight over a location. So I wonder what they're going to be doing. I think that, I don't even know, to be honest, but let's have a look at the nerfs to the Rocket Scout Ornithopter. I am curious to know the speed nerf and maneuverability, and some people might not like this, but I think that this could be good because it might actually allow the Assault Ornithopter, is what I was trying to say, the Assault Ornithopter to actually be a thing besides being a hauler, which is kind of what it is right now. Let's just be honest. Like, I'm not saying people don't come out with rocket assaults, but you kind of can become a sitting duck if you're in one. And to be honest, even though you have more tank and more firepower, the Scout is so much quicker. You can't get a gun lane on it. So I think that this is going to be a good thing. Rockets fired from the Scout Ornithopter will increase heat generation. So overall, your DPS output as a Scout is going to be less because you're going to have to stop firing more often. And this piece here, I hope they don't overdo it and just kill the Scout. We will see. And then we've got thrusters will provide maximum speed to make the people who have those the fastest vehicles in the game. I think this is a good thing, and I'm actually kind of excited to see how fast you can go with a T6 fully decked out speed build on your Scout. But it'll also actually allow you to be a scanner and explorer. If you think about it, you can actually go around and explore a little easier because you have that speed. So a couple of things, but then you've potential, what if someone's standing on the top with a laser or a rocket launcher and blasting people while you're flying around at Mach speed? So some things to think about. Finally, the intended dynamic has always been combined arms. We have infantry and ground vehicles as well as air vehicles, and they're all supposed to have clear roles, clear strengths, and clear counters. Thopters will always be incredibly important for crossing the desert, but they shouldn't also be the dominant force in actual battles. We're planning to make more changes to the deep desert to accommodate ground battles and reinforce the use of player bases. I can't wait. Please, I want to be able to drive around in my buggy and blast a little Scoutthopter. Now, let's talk briefly about the Landsrat. As a system, it is an activity driver that is designed to promote the conflict between the factions, internal politics between guilds, while providing goal thresholds for individuals and groups to work towards getting personal rewards. And the Landsrat should be doing that for everyone who wants to participate in the Elder game, be they PvEer or PvPer. The Landsrat should be giving you the things to do every day and every week. The Landsrat is an umbrella for all endgame activities. What form do those endgame activities take? More dungeons with bosses that drop endgame loot, more contracts that require specific tasks to be undertaken, more specialized delivery tasks that include components that cannot be stockpiled. If we ever add raids to the game, there will be a task on the Landsrat to complete those raids. It is a framework that holds the endgame activities in place. We are addressing some key flaws in the Landsrat design: the inability to hand in items after a square is completed, and the rapidity at which some squares are turned in. Stockpiling is currently rewarded, but that is not our intention for this system, and we will make some changes to address it as best we can. Landsrad rewards are supposed to reflect the endgame tiers of progression. This includes the vendors, which can be unlocked for an entire faction through participation. This is the intention, but once again, let me acknowledge that this isn't exactly in the right place. The Landsrad will be updated to provide micro rewards for solo and small group players. Thanks for listening, everyone, and apologies for the confusion. Once a live game launches, it becomes a collaborative effort between the developers and the players to make it something amazing. We appreciate your feedback on what we hope is the beginning of a long journey together. Bear with us. Our intention is to be clear and open in our communication and to make Dune Awakening a game that everybody can enjoy. I hope this helps. Joel. Beautiful. And I'm going to throw in a few of my 2 cents here. We're going to look through the whole thing. So I've already spoken about the PvP stuff and the Ornithopters. I do genuinely think that the Scout Ornithopter, as fun as it is, needs to be nerfed. It is super fun, but it needs to be shut down. It's just way too strong, way too prominent, and too much of it is just Ornithopter and Ornithopter combat. I do love that they're actually addressing the fact that the ground combat is not super a thing right now, and they're going to try and implement ways through the deep desert so that ground combat can actually be feasible, then hopefully a big juicy tank, which I cannot wait for. Super excited, cannot wait to blast things out the sky with that thing. The Landsrad, in my opinion, needs to be addressed and needs to be worked. It's just PvEers, in my opinion, have so much control over the Landsrad that being a PvPer, you might as well just not even try to do anything. Like it's just so minuscule. So I hope they do address that in some way, shape or form, and really help out to make it more diverse is what I'm trying to say, between the two types of player group. Now, right at the end, they said that they're going to try and make the game for everybody. I just don't think that this is going to work, to be honest. If you make it for everybody, then it's not going to be amazing for anybody. That's been shown countless times, but we could see. Time will tell what they do and how they're going to implement it. I think the changes in terms of PvE zones in the deep desert, that's a finicky one. Now, like I said earlier, I genuinely think that unique schematics is something people should fight for, but when it comes to resources, whatever, like, let people be able to fight with same tier stuff and grind up to that point to get that stuff. And if someone wants to get a carrier to go and hang out in Haga Basin, who the flip cares? You know what I mean? But when it comes to schematics and things that genuinely matter, because those can really change the tide of a battle, especially when you're fighting someone on foot with various different swords like the spark sword and this and that, I genuinely think that those are things that should be fought after, because then the value of those will be retained. But that's my 2 cents. Let me know down in the comments down below what you think, what should be changed, what shouldn't be changed, and how you feel about the whole sort of rebalancing of things. But with all that out the way, cheers all for joining me. Thanks all for watching, and I'm going to catch you all on the next one.